All right, so this is going to be your first video lecture. Make sure that you have your notebooks out. You should be taking notes here. This is intended to replace our normal lecture in the classroom. You can kind of go at your own pace. If you need to stop and rewind, you may do so. But you need to cover this in addition to the normal reading that I'm also assigning in class. So make sure you're keeping up with these lectures. These will be available all year long, so you can go back and look at them. But make sure you're also keeping up with the reading as well. So Unit 1 is going to be the Western in transition. Now we're going to start the unit off. It's a little bit in a different order than the book has it. But we're going to talk a little bit about the rise of nation states and the new monarchies. So in the 14th and the 17th centuries, new nations are becoming solidified. England and France specifically, ever since the Hundred Years' War, have this kind of common identity that they are English, we are French. So they are solid nations in that way. Spain and Portugal, Russia, Poland, the Ottoman Empire, and Germany, Italy, all are in kind of different states in the 1500s. Some are more politically organized than others. Mostly in Western Europe, you're going to have more solid monarchs in control. More in Eastern Europe, as you can kind of see in the map there, there's a lot of different nationalities, a lot of different types of people going on, and so it's going to be harder for those countries to gain, or those leaders to gain controls of their territories. Some common things that you need in order to build a nation state is often language, history, and customs. And we'll talk about more of this later on in the year about nationality and what makes a nation state. It's at this point that there's a lot of loyalty that's being transferred from the monarch to the monarch. Excuse me. Before, remember, during medieval times, it was small principalities, small kingdoms, and people had loyalty towards their noble king, who eventually would give loyalty to the monarch. Now, the monarch's starting to strip away the power of those local kings and taking that power back. So the nation states that are developed during this time are England, France, and Spain. Now, other countries that have a lot more diverse nationalities, usually they had one nationality that predominates, and this creates kind of a conflict between the minority groups and the majority groups, and there really are no feelings of nationality. And once again, if you look at that map, the Holy Roman Empire in there has got lots of different colors. That means there's lots of different types of people living there. Usually that means that they're not going to get along. So the states of Russia, Hungary, Poland, and the Ottoman Empire are going to have a longer path in order to establish their unified nation state. So at this time, many new monarchs come to power, and they're starting to gain more and more power, and that will eventually lead to absolutism, which we'll be looking at in a couple of weeks. The way they gained a lot of this power is that first off, they limited the power of the feudal aristocracy. Those people that had lots of land and things like that, they started taking away a little bit of that power. They did this by fostering trade. They created efficient, centralized systems of taxation, so that taxation is starting to take away the power of those feudal aristocracy people. They're starting to maintain standing armies, which are loyal to specifically the monarch and not local kings or princes. And also encourage some sense of national identity, this army that we are English, we are French, we are Spanish. And also these new monarchs enforce religious unity. So we're going to look at a couple specific monarchs that you should remember their names for the future and maybe even the AP European History test. John I of Portugal, he ended the Portuguese political anarchy, and he founded the Portuguese period of discoveries, which we'll be looking at here soon after the Renaissance. Louis the 11th of France, he's the one that united France, kind of gave them a common identity. He reorganized its economy, and he weakened the power of nobility, which in turn strengthens the power of the monarch. Isabel I of Castile and Ferdinand II of Aragon, they brought their nations together under a single political dynasty, and they really weakened the power of the nobility and completed the Reconquista. This is in Spain, so it's at this point that Spain has become a nation state and is one of the strongest nation states during this period of time, 1500s. Henry VIII of England was also a very strong monarch, one of these new monarchs. He unified England politically by eliminating potential competitors to the throne. He sent away his brothers or killed them, and anybody else that had a claim to the throne. He pacified the Yorkist resistance by marrying Elizabeth of York. So this is the idea that strong families are going to combine to make a stronger, even a stronger family. That really reduces any kind of competition for the throne. He also checked the power of the nobilities. He ended the War of the Roses, brought England from bankruptcy to prosperity, and built up the Royal Navy. As we'll see in the future, England will become by far the strongest navy in the world. So this leads us to the Italian Renaissance. This is where our class really begins. So the beginnings are in the 14th century, so in the 1300s, when Europe is medieval. In Italy at this time is changing. There's a couple different centers of patrons, all right? And patrons are the wealthy people that are going to pay for some beautiful art to be created. The first is in Florence. You can see this map here. Florence was a small nation state, and they had quite a bit of money there. And that was controlled by the Medicis. This is a banking family, an investment family that's going to control Florence for quite some time and give a lot of money to artists to produce beautiful works of art. The second kind of competing area of this is Rome and the Roman Catholic Church. You guys have probably seen the Sistine Chapel and maybe you've even visited the Vatican. You can see how much money they actually pumped in to creating beautiful pieces of art. Now, it started in Italy because there was an urbanized northern part of Italy. You have Pisa, Florence, Siena, Venice, Milan, Genoa. Okay, these places are centralized. People have excess money to spend on art, and this is going to really make the Renaissance flourish. So the economic prosperity is based on trade because of the Crusades. Now remember, we talked about the Crusades the other day and how this idea of expanding exploration plus the new tastes of spices and things like that, it's going to bring a lot of wealth to Italy. In addition to that, they had the beginning businesses of industry and banking. In addition, they had some political power and they took away land from the landed aristocracy. And this goes into the fluid society idea that in Italy, you were not a powerful person because you were born a powerful person. You became a powerful person because you worked your way up, you succeeded, and you promoted your own skills and your own abilities. And this really attracted a lot of the outside talent. Those who maybe weren't born of nobility could move here and make a name for themselves. And as I said a little earlier, this area of northern Italy has money to spend. They want to spend it on culture and art. They promote political and social ambition. They want to show and build civic pride. And artist prestige was increased during this time, and education and the intellectual elite began to flourish as well. I know you might want to take a little break right now, so take a little break and read this. It's kind of funny.